What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Rookie Numbers. I know I've been gone for a few days, but there's just been so much football to watch. We just wrapped up week one yesterday. Very exciting week one, I thought. Packers-Eagles game in Brazil certainly delivered, minus a plethora of penalties from the NFL, or from the referees. That one was kind of... Both offenses ended up exploding, including Saquon Barkley putting on an absolute clinic in his debut for the Eagles. But the quarterback play just wasn't quite up to par. Reading some stats here, Jalen Hurts, 20 of 34, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 really bad interceptions. First one throwing into double coverage early in the first quarter. Luckily, he was bailed out by his defense on that one. They ended up holding the Packers to just 3 points. And then a really bad one late in the game, on the run outside the pocket, across his body, trying to hit A.J. Brown, and it was picked off by Jair Alexander in the end zone. So Hurts just didn't really look like himself most of the game in general. I don't know if there's still like a lingering injury that's bothering him, but he still certainly did not look like the Jalen Hurts from 2022. So, but week one might just be knocking off some rust. Same with Jordan Love. Wasn't very impressed with him throughout the game. Jaden Reed, he came out really strong for his offense. He ended up the day with 2 touchdowns that were 30-plus yards. Let's see here, pulling up Jaden Reed's stats. One was on the ground. 1 carry, 33 yards, and a touchdown. And then 4 catches, 138 yards, and a touchdown. I believe he led the entire league in week one receiving. Just some other games. I just want to give my brief analysis from each game quick. Titans and Bears. Titans defense looked so strong throughout the game. They were up 17-3 at one point, and then there was a blocked punt where Jonathan Jones picked up for the Bears. I believe that was the third quarter, and then the momentum just completely shifted. The pendulum really swung. Caleb Williams, not too impressive in his debut, but he was the first rookie quarterback, first number 1 pick to win his debut in quite some time. Will Levis, was a little disappointed in him as well. The quarterback play in general in week 1 wasn't fantastic. He went 19-32, 127 yards, 2 interceptions, one of them being really bad, where he tried to throw the ball away. It was like a shovel pass throwaway that was picked off by the Bears, right back to the end zone. That's when the Bears took the lead, and they were able to hold on. So not much to really critique Caleb Williams on. They didn't throw the ball a whole lot. He only threw for 93 yards, so hopefully we see a little bit more of him and what he can do this Sunday when the Bears take on the Texans. Steelers and Falcons, Chris Boswell went 6 for 6. Hit all of his field goals, which led to all of Pittsburgh's 18 points. They were able to hold off the Falcons in an 18-10 victory. Kirk Cousins looked a little tight, you would say. Didn't look too comfortable in the pocket. He threw a 12-yard touchdown pass to Kyle Pitts, and that was the only touchdown for Atlanta for that whole game. Justin Fields ended up getting the start. Russell Wilson was inactive, but still padded up, as Russell Wilson would do. The most Russell Wilson thing you've ever heard. Russell Wilson still padded up from helmet to cleats for that game, even though he was inactive. But Justin Fields put on a pretty strong performance, connected with George Pickens 6 times for 84 yards, and T.J. Watt put on an absolute clinic. Pulling up T.J.'s stats real quick. Let's see here. T.J. Watt had just 1 sack, but the amount of hurries he had on Kirk Cousins was quite impressive. I even read something that T.J. Watt was so fast off of the line that game that the refs actually thought he was offsides on every play. And they ended up later on apologizing to him because he was never offsides. They just couldn't believe how fast he was off the line. Moving down the list here, Bills beat the Cardinals 34-28. They have a huge Thursday night matchup against division rival Miami Dolphins tomorrow night. Really looking forward to that one. Patriots defeat the Bengals 16-10. That was probably the most surprising game to me. I thought out of all the games, the Bengals beating the Patriots would be a lock. And they're in rebuild mode. Defense played phenomenal, held Cincinnati to just 10 points. T. Higgins did not play. Jamar Chase did not have a very productive day. Didn't help out his offense a whole lot. But, biggest surprise of the weekend for me. Gerard Mayo gets his first win. Even got the Gatorade bath after the game for the Patriots. So, looks like going with Jacoby for the first start was not the wrong move. It was the right move. So we'll see what the Patriots can do next week when they host the Seahawks. Texans and the Colts was a really good game. Texans won 29-27. I did predict the Colts to win this game, but I did have one prediction right. Anthony Richardson can chuck it. He had a 58-yard bomb to Alec Pierce in the first quarter off his back foot. One of the best throws I've ever seen in NFL history. Didn't put up the greatest numbers. Went 9 of 19. 9 of 19, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have an interception. Also had a rushing touchdown with 56 yards rushing. I think Anthony Richardson, if he can stay healthy, he could potentially end up being the best quarterback in that division. Even though the Colts lost that game, it didn't really feel like too much of a loss because they have, I think, maybe had the best deal in the 2023 draft if he can continue to play that way. 58-yard bomb to Alec Pierce. Also threw another touchdown pass to, it was a 54-yard touchdown pass to Ashton Dulin. But like I said, although they did not get the victory, the Colts have a lot to look forward to with that young offense. Moving down the list, we have the Jaguars and the Dolphins. Lots of drama in Miami before the game. Tyreek Hill was pulled over for a traffic violation on the way, where cell phone video footage captured police pulling Tyreek out of the car and arresting him. It appears that when Tyreek was given orders to roll down his window so the police officer could speak to him, he refused and actually rolled up his window. That led to things escalating and Tyreek being detained, but not arrested. Teammate Calais Campbell saw all this going on the way to the stadium. He parked his car, got out, and also kind of got into it with the police a little bit. That also led to his detainment. Tyreek was eventually let go. Body cam footage of this came out yesterday. As far as who is at fault here, I think both. Tyreek was being a bit of a jerk, if you will. He wasn't following orders. I do think the police were a little bit excessive in their reaction. I don't think it was necessary for him to be on the ground. Asking him to get out of the car was, I think fair. But it did not affect Tyreek's play at all. He had an 80-yard touchdown catch, which really got the Dolphins back into it. I think it was 17-0. The Jaguars were up before that score, and that really shifted the momentum. And then late in the third quarter, Travis Etienne, while the Jaguars were up 10, they were about to make it a 17-point game where he fumbled at the 1-yard line in the back of the end zone. That was then that was a 7-point swing after that, because when Miami got the ball back after that turnover, they capitalized and they made it a 3-point game where they would later go on and kick a game-winning field goal as time expired. So, not the Miami we're used to seeing, where their offense kind of handles the entire game from first quarter to fourth quarter. But just kind of another one of those Jaguars games, right, where they have a pretty comfortable lead and mistakes lead to them kind of falling apart and not being able to hold on to it. I still think they have a lot to look forward to, though. Trevor Lawrence is back healthy. I think Doug Peterson is one of the best coaches in the league. A lot of week one overreactions about the Jaguars, if you will. I think they'll be okay. Moving on to the next game, Saints and Panthers. We thought that the Panthers couldn't possibly get any worse after last season, right? And after all the additions they made this offseason. Somehow they did. Or at least after one game, it looks like they somehow got worse. Bryce Young was really bad. They could not establish any sort of running game. And Alvin Kamara, Rashid Shaheed, and Derek Carr threw, ran, and just plowed all over the Carolina Panthers defense. Just going to list off some team stats about that game. Time of possession, New Orleans Saints 36 minutes 39 seconds compared to Carolina's 23 minutes and 21 seconds. Carolina converted 11 first downs that game. New Orleans doubled that. They had 22. Third down efficiency, this is where the Panthers really got to get better. I mean, if any team had this bad of third down efficiency, I mean, it'd be time to overhaul everything. They were 1 for 10. They were only 10% on third down. Really, really bad. 1 for 3 on fourth down. They were down by so much throughout the entire game that they were going for it on almost every fourth down to try to catch up. Only 193 total yards. And so far, the number one pick of the 2023 NFL Draft, Bryce Young, has not lived up to expectations. Granted, there is not a lot of help around him. They did bring in Xavier Leggett in the draft. Deontay Johnson's their new number one. Adam Thielen still, even though his age, I think he's 33, 34 now, has been pretty productive for them. I believe he was their leading receiver on Sunday with 3 catches and 49 yards. They tried to get the running game going with Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders, but they only contributed to 36 total yards in the run game. And then even more bad news for Carolina, their best player on defense, maybe the best player on the team, Derek Brown, has just been placed on IR. So he will miss at least the next 4 games. Moving on to the next game. This one is also a little bit of a surprise for me. I thought this game would be a little closer. Vikings and the Giants. Vikings won 28-6. Really impressive. You know, if you think about all of the setbacks that they've had in the offseason and the preseason with J.J. McCarthy going down and just kind of in a slight rebuild mode that they've had over the past few months or so. Sam Darnold, 19 of 24, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of them went to Justin Jefferson, of course, and the other one to Jalen Naylor, who I believe is in his third season out of Michigan State. Aaron Jones ran really well, 14 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Daniel Jones had a rough game this game for the Giants. Threw another pick six, one that was really bad. It was inside of his own 10-yard line. Only 22 of 42, 186 yards, 2 picks total. I don't know where the Giants go from here with Daniel Jones, because it's very clear to me that he's not the answer for them. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Eagles fan and the Giants are our most hated rival. But I think the Giants are going to quickly realize that bringing in all these fresh new toys like Malik Neighbors and well, I guess Malik Neighbors is really the only big one they brought in, as none of that's going to matter if you don't have the right guy at the quarterback position, which it appears to me they simply just do not have. Neighbors didn't show much in his NFL debut, 5 catches, 66 yards. You could tell they were really making an effort to get him going on the offense, but just nothing was going their way throughout the entire game. Next game, Raiders and Chargers. Chargers won. Jim Harbaugh wins his debut with Los Angeles. They win 22-10 against the Raiders. Really defensive game for most of the first half and even into the second half. J.K. Dobbins rushed for 135 yards, and I think all 10 of his carries for that 135 yards came in the second half. There was a bit of a brawl at the end of this game between Josh Palmer, Chargers wide receiver, and I believe it is Josh Jackson, a defensive back for the Raiders. This is towards the end of the game. You can tell the Raiders were showing frustration. 2 Chargers receivers were blocking hard downfield in the back of the end zone, where Ladd McConkey would score his first NFL touchdown on a 10-yard reception. Things really escalated from there. This is actually one of the more underrated rivalries in the NFL with the Chargers and Raiders. You know, with the Los Angeles background, just that California rivalry. I mean, when the Raiders were in Oakland for so long, and you really felt it throughout the whole game. It was a real slobber knocker on defense. Joey Bosa really got to Gardner Minshew, pressured him all 60 minutes of that game, and Max Crosby on the other end. You know, he just kind of has that. He's got that tough guy feel, and that belongs on a Raiders team. So Justin Herbert played decent, 17 of 26, 144 yards, and a touchdown. But you can tell Jim Harbaugh's coaching style on offense. To him, the key to winning is run so you can pass. And I think that's going to be his recipe for success. When Brandon Staley was there, I think he almost relied on Justin Herbert a little too much, and I think it's going to be good for Herbert. Have a coach that's a little bit more run-based and have Herbert make the plays when he needs to. And another thing that Herbert ran into under Staley was he was always trying to dig Staley out of these holes, which is why he was passing the ball so much. Harbaugh may not blow teams out in the NFL, but he holds them off long enough to where Herbert can kind of rely on his running backs and the guys around him a little bit more than when he needed to under Staley. Just going to kind of buzz through these 3 o'clock games. Seahawks won 26-20 in Seattle. Broncos lost the game while getting 2 safeties. That's a rare thing. I mean, getting 2 safeties is rare enough. Losing after getting 2 safeties is even more rare. Bo Nix loses his NFL debut. Cowboys go into Cleveland and handle the Browns 33-17. Dak Prescott had just signed his new 4-year contract extension for, I think it was $280 million. I'll have to look at it. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Dak Prescott is the new highest paid player in NFL history. And Ezekiel Elliott back in the end zone for the Cowboys. He scored on a 3-yard run. Good for him. Moving on to the Commanders versus the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield put on a clinic for the Bucs. You know, it's funny. Every time I watch Baker play, and he has performances like this, I always go back to the team we just talked about, the Browns. I mean, how big of a mistake did they make trying to keep Deshaun Watson, trading Deshaun Watson, or trading for Deshaun Watson and letting Baker walk? I mean, it's just, he proves time and time again. Took the Bucs to the playoffs last year, probably should have been comeback of the player last year. And then in his first game in 2024, let's look at these numbers. It's unbelievable. 24 of 30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. Was only sacked once, had 37 fantasy points. So if you had Baker starting on Sunday, I'm guessing you won in fantasy this week. 2 touchdown passes to Mike Evans. I think the Bucs are going to be one of those sneaky good teams. They may not win the division, but I think they're going to make the playoffs again. They've just been so solid under Baker. Matt Stafford went back to Detroit to try to get his second shot of revenge on the Lions. He came up just short. Lions pull off the victory in overtime, 26-20 on a David Montgomery 1-yard touchdown run. And then Monday night's game, 49ers defeated the Jets 32-19. A lot of drama around this one too when it came to Christian McCaffrey. It came out on Saturday that he was going to potentially get his normal workload. Then later on in Saturday, it was, revealed that Christian McCaffrey would not be able to handle the same workload. Kyle Shanahan became less confident in him, and then Jordan Mason, who replaced McCaffrey, put on an amazing performance. He was 28 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. And this makes me kind of think a little bit too, like, when it comes to paying these guys, this 5-headed monster that the 49ers have, Purdy, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle. Well, Brock's for sure getting paid. Purdy is for sure getting paid. Ayuk just got paid. You pretty much, in today's NFL, you need a really good tight end to be successful on offense or in general in today's league. So I would imagine Kittle stays. And then you have Debo that can really do both, come out of the backfield and then, catch passes as well as a wide receiver. And then you just showed that you can have Jordan Mason come in and get 147 yards in his first start. Maybe McCaffrey's the odd man out when it comes to paying these guys. I'm not saying that's what I would do, but from a GM's perspective, if I just saw my backup running back go for 147 yards and 28 carries and a touchdown, that's going to come into my decision making when it comes to who gets paid and who has to go. He's listed as day-to-day, going back to McCaffrey, he's listed as day-to-day going into next Sunday's game, the Vikings. Now, keep in mind, they said that to us going into last week, and doesn't sound like they were being entirely truthful about McCaffrey's status, but he's dealing with a calf injury and also Achilles tendonitis at the same time, so he's kind of battling two things at once. We'll see how that plays out throughout the week. Man, I am really excited for Week 2. I just want to go down the list of games here for Week 2 real quick. Tomorrow night's game is huge. Bills and Dolphins. I feel like anytime the Dolphins play the Bills, it just feels like a must-win game for the Dolphins. Bills have won 11 of the last 12, including a playoff win where Tua Tagovailoa did not play. So, and they have the Bills at home. We all remember last year when the division was on the line in Week 18 and the Dolphins came up short. Bills ended up winning 21-14. You know, that's a big one for them. Another one that I'm looking forward to, Saints and Cowboys. Saints look strong in their debut at home against the Panthers last week. Granted, it's the Panthers, but the offense looked good. We have an NFC divisional rematch, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We just talked about how great Baker looked. They're going to Detroit to take on the Lions. 49ers at Vikings, looking forward to that one. Sam Darnold playing against the team he was just on this past year. He might get a little revenge on the Niners there. Jets and Titans, anytime Aaron Rodgers plays, I'm looking forward to that. Kind of a sneaky good game would be Rams and Cardinals. You know, Cardinals look like they can get their offense going if they want to. They look pretty decent against the Bills in the first half there. Now I think the really big one that everybody's looking forward to, CBS 3:30. We got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs. Now I would be looking much more forward to this game if the Bengals played better this past Sunday. They didn't. It just feels kind of weird that the Bengals are coming into this one 0-1. It's almost like the NFL tried to set it up to where they would come into this game 1-0 to go into Kansas City and take on the Chiefs. But anytime those two teams get together, ever since the whole Burrowhead thing, they played 2 AFC Championship games against each other. Man, I think that one's going to be a lot of fun. So, and Caleb Williams versus C.J. Stroud Sunday night on NBC. Sorry, I'm going to wrap this up quick, guys. I just wanted to give my thoughts on Week 1, some of the things I noticed. You know, I think it's too early to tell who's going to be good and who's not. Week 2, we'll start to learn a little bit more. And it's also a shame that we're probably not going to see Russell Wilson start for the Steelers this Sunday to take on his former team, the Broncos. It doesn't sound like he's going to be quite healthy enough yet. Later this week, I think Saturday or Sunday, I want to give like a brief preview for the big Bengals-Chiefs game on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. Please like this video. Please hit the subscribe button for me. I love talking sports with you guys. Love talking NFL, so really looking forward to Week 2. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.